Fixing Canada's Broken Government Administration by Dorothy Dobbie. Canada once had one of the world's most efficient and stable administrations. Career bureaucrats understood their roles and were dedicated and professional. They received policy direction from their political masters and worked earnestly to deliver good results. They took pride in doing their very best for their country, which prompted excellent work. Career public servants still exist. However, their authority and opportunities for advancement have been increasingly usurped by the insertion of active and retiring political staffers, union rules that value seniority over excellence, and identity politics, which imposes hiring quotas. The result is a top-heavy and unwieldy system that does not work. The problem begins with political masters more bent on gathering votes than delivering services. Policymakers focus on short-term solutions without thinking things through and frequently rely on politically motivated advice from people preoccupied with regaining office. This happens at every level of government. Too often, party organizers pick and choose candidates and set aside the preferences of grassroots supporters. Candidates may be rejected for any number of reasons, and the committee does not have to reveal them. This is counter-democratic. This can keep excellent candidates from running, while a small group dominated by political staffers and operatives determines what is best for the party. Over time, the caucus may have less talent or be less reflective of the perspective and wisdom found in its members. Trust in politicians erodes because sincere people driven to serve the public lose their place to ones deemed best to meet the goals of political organizers. I have served on 3 selection committees. They often rely on the questionable wisdom of a few instead of the democratic wisdom of the many. This is particularly concerning when the candidate is an insider, a political staffer who thinks they know everything, has little empathy for constituents, and has focused their previous efforts on insulating their elected boss from the public. Rarely do political staffers make effective representatives. They enter the political field very young and quickly become disillusioned and cynical. They have little life experience, and if they worked in the office of a cabinet minister or leader, they may have a distorted view of how the government should work. A second problem is that candidate selection committees sometimes want a candidate who can sway votes of a certain ethnic group. This is a tricky election strategy because some communities are more willing than others to vote as a bloc. But for good government, it is dangerous. The interest group may expect a favor in return. This could sway an elected representative into decisions worse for other constituents or even the country. The third mistake is allowing political staff to join the civil service. If they play their cards right, they can get a senior position, bringing with them their lack of experience, their political cynicism, and their ingrained biases. I have seen former political staffers become CEOs of major agencies, utilities, and so on, despite lacking the required skill set. They're forced to reach out to consultants and outside experts to do what the leader should do themselves. Chiefs of staff, appointed by the office of the Prime Minister, or a Premier's office, wield a heavy hand over ministerial and even prime ministerial decisions. They receive information first and decide how to deploy it. Withholding information can be dangerous. One only has to look at Canadian Security Intelligence Service briefings about foreign interference that somehow never reached their intended destinations. These high-ranking staffers also deal directly with the public service, including deputy ministers. How these staffers interpret the boss's orders has a huge bearing on many decisions. The power of political staff needs to be clearly defined and truncated. Unionization of the public service was a bad idea, but for union organizers, governments are low-hanging fruit. There are endless funds to draw upon and no danger that the employer will close the doors forever. Organizers can call on political allies for support. The downside is the toll that union involvement takes on morale, productivity, and commitment. Public servants are no longer part of a team designed to improve the lives of fellow citizens. They are government adversaries determined to earn higher wages, receive more time off, and get as many benefits as possible. Promotion is all but guaranteed because hiring is governed by seniority over excellence. Union agreements have made firing an incompetent employee more and more difficult, and often the poor performer or troublemaker is promoted to another department to get him or her out of someone's hair. Unionized employees have no incentive to produce. Bonuses are given but are received as an entitlement. A former senior civil servant said he was told during his job review not to work so hard because it put his fellow employees in an uncomfortable position. During my research for this article, I spoke with several public servants. I asked a senior government official who has worked in top management positions both federally and provincially what she would do to fix the administrative problems. She said that, unfortunately, Even when the government does manage to attract and hire top talent from outside, the system grinds down enterprising and energetic people. Frustrated with the whack-a-mole system, the best people, stressed and disillusioned, return to the private sector. This syndrome has been plaguing the healthcare system across the country. I spoke to a former registered nurse working as an auto body shop clerk. She left nursing because stress levels brought on by the bureaucratic practices in the hospital were killing her. She left despite the cut in pay and lack of benefits. Money does not motivate. It can only reward, and money can have the opposite effect on morale than intended. The chain of command has been heavily distorted partly because of the issues previously mentioned. Too many middle managers and too many layers of decision-makers had led to inefficient management. This example from the Government of Canada website explains how the government is currently structured. The National Occupational Classification 2021 is based on a 5-tiered hierarchical structure. The first level contains 10 broad occupational categories. The second level is made up of 45 major groups. The third level consists of 89 sub-major groups. The fourth level gathers 162 minor groups, and the last level comprises 516 unit groups. Layers of detailed reporting that require endless paperwork are needed to manage this. Procedure has overtaken judgment, and workers are afraid to exercise it. Following the minute details of procedural directives slows everything down and requires many people to manage simple tasks. This red tape entangles everyone and can halt production. The answer has been to hire consultants who can hire outsiders to perform the task without procedural complexity. Recent events, such as the mismanagement of the ArriveCan app, have shown that this is expensive and ineffective. Hierarchical management has been in place for a long time because it works. Everyone, from the CEO to the janitor, knows their job and who to report to and answer to. In recent years, however, an emphasis on teamwork has taken hold. Teamwork is necessary, but this new, inferior version has everyone taking part in making decisions, leaving nobody individually decision-making, but nobody is responsible. To build and manage an effective team, leadership is critical. It inspires, directs, motivates, and rewards in ways that matter to team members. Even in a team, hierarchy still works. The solution begins by returning democracy to the internal politics of parties. Allow candidates to offer freely, open nominations, and let interested candidates battle it out. Stop relying solely on recruiters and selection committees to determine who may run for office. Rely on volunteers to run campaigns instead of election specialists. Too much time is spent on fundraising to pay their salaries and not enough on policy development. Campaigners become more loyal to a paycheck and an agency rather than the candidate and ideas. If paid managers make all the campaign decisions, they can distort the priorities of candidates and leaders to reflect that of the managers. At the government level, reduce the centralization of power in the leader's office. Return the role of hiring political staff and chiefs of staff to the minister instead of the prime minister's or premier's office. Ministers must be accountable for their portfolios, which is challenging when the reporting line goes directly to the top, bypassing key players. Because the leader cannot possibly manage everything, staffers end up doing the work, thus transferring power from the elected to the selected. Ministerial accountability will reduce the power of political staffers if they must report to their minister directly. Spell out their roles and ensure that everyone, including the civil service, understands the limits of their power. Insist that deputies and other very senior civil servants communicate directly with ministers, not go-betweens. Discourage political staff from running for office. They should be barred for several years from doing so after leaving a staff position, just as they are barred from becoming lobbyists. To reduce management levels, review the administration levels of all positions. Focus on accountability and results. Avoid automatically hiring from within. All positions should be publicly offered and vigorously marketed to get the best possible candidates. Hire on merit, not according to artificial rules about gender, color, race, religion, or any other identity. Be prepared to dismiss incompetent or underproductive employees. When there are consequences for inaction, production will pick up quickly. Take direct control of collective bargaining. Using lawyers and other disinterested agencies should be discouraged. Determine along with the cabinet what the priorities are. The work cannot be done all at once and it cannot be done alone. Respect confederal jurisdictions. Empower decision-making but hold decision-makers accountable. Understand that teamwork requires leadership as well as mutuality. Hierarchy still matters.